Hello again, everyone. Thanks for tuning into the Black Swan Podcast. You're listening to episode 25 with your BSP Super Pal, Tim Church. As always, feel free to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and drop us a rating. More stars, the better. And tell all your music-loving friends and family. This will help get our little show out to more listeners like yourself. We have an increasing collection of conversations with BSP artists and educators where we learn more about their careers and activities and get hit with some knowledge bombs along the way. We're coming up to the end of the wild ride that's been 2020. Normally we exhibit at the Midwest Clinic in December, but we've gone digital again. Be sure to visit the virtual exhibit page on our website at www.blackswamp.com to explore a new collection of snare drum videos, product buying guides, and educational content, all tailored specifically for the band and orchestra supporters we typically see this time of year in Chicago. If you're listening to this before December 27th, 2020, you can also take advantage of a special promotion we're running through our friends at the Percussion Source. For a limited time, receive 15% off pretty much our full product line. Complete details are outlined in the show notes. So, Tim Adams should need little to no introduction. He's a veteran orchestral percussionist and educator, being chair of the percussion department at the University of Georgia. Prior to his position, Tim was timpanist and/or percussionist with the Pittsburgh Symphony, Indianapolis Symphony, Florida Philharmonic, Canton Symphony, and a substitute musician with the Cleveland Orchestra. Tim is also highly regarded as a mentor to countless musicians and percussionists he's come in contact with over the years. This conversation centers on his influence on the percussion world and his latest project, Music 846, taking shape in response to the killing of George Floyd this past summer. So here we go.
Let's get started.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh, I thought we got started already. Okay, so I'm talking to Tim Adams. Tim, hi, how are you, man?
Hey, man, I'm in the front room. I've been here since March, so I'm well.
Yeah, and your son just got to sleep. You the only one that can put your boy down?
No, Kim did it.
Oh, okay.
She's the only one that can do it.
Yeah, we have. I got two girls, and our first daughter was definitely mama's girl. Like, she was the only one that could get her to take it. Well, she didn't like to take naps, but go down at night, or when she would get up at night, she didn't want to have anything to do with me. But
Yep.
Fortunately, our youngest Zoe is kind of more of a daddy's girl. So I had the magic touch. I could get her swaddled, and then I pat her butt. I put her on her tummy, and then your boy's like 4 now, so you probably don't have to do this anymore. But
yeah, we do.
Oh, you got to wrap him up like a little burrito and pat his butt.
He just doesn't sleep, man. It's rough. That's all right, though.
So the general question, how have you been doing during this sort of COVID era? How's your family and everybody been handling everything?
We're hanging in there. I mean, as best we can.
Yeah.
We've been teaching at home, because of just pre-existing conditions. So we'll be there from now till May, and we're making it work the best we can. And the tough part is not being able to see family.
Oh yeah.
My parents are only an hour away. And my dad's 86, my mom's 83. I haven't seen them since January.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
That's tough, but I talk to them every day and on Google Duo, so they see Luca, and, so it's nice. We're making it, man.
Yeah.
You just try to be as productive as you can and be as supportive for each other in the family and as supportive to the students as you can.
Sure.
Always checking their temperature is very difficult, especially the freshmen. They can't come to school and have a college experience. They can't meet anybody really. It's just I feel terrible for them. But, you just do the best you can. I mean, I've been pretty productive and write a lot of music and playing, and I got some 3 recording projects, and I just got some tracks back from a buddy of mine. Just a half hour ago,
Is he on the phone now? Is that who's calling you?
No. We're trying to keep the fort going. So he just sent some tracks back, and we had a conversation. We'll try to finish record probably by end of November, but December. Then I got another one. We got one track left to finish with a former student of mine. We have a group, and then I got another duo partner here in town. So,
Wow.
And I just sent a thing to you that I wanted to. I need to send a description of, and that's more in my Music 846 project.
Right.
And so we just kind of just doing the best we can. I mean, I'm reading a lot. I just read this book called "Warmth of Other Suns" by Isabel Wilkerson. Talks about the Great Migration of Black folk from the South to the North and West from 1913 to 1970. And I read, it's like this 570-page book. When I read it, I fed the dogs for the past month. And it was, I was sharing with a buddy of mine this very poignant quote. It said, "Every day is a blessing and every breath is a gift." So,
Amen.
And so I vowed I will say that every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And that kind of helps give me a little peace, even though things may be kind of chaotic, but I think it's pretty poignant. Every day is a blessing and every breath is a gift.
Yeah. And it's interesting. We were just talking at the dinner table tonight with the conversations that we have with an 8-year-old and a 13-year-old are all very similar. Like kind of thinking about what we're going through now, like as a family, but as a community and as a nation. Like, is this the worst thing that's happened to the country? It's up there, but no. Is this the worst thing that's ever happened to an individual? No, absolutely not.
No.
So trying to put those things into perspective and to really think every day is a gift and every day is special. Yeah, is a great way to think about it and kind of get through it. Yeah.
Well, you have to, otherwise. I mean, for me.
Welcome to our chat, powered by Bill. Thank you. Goodbye.
He's doing open enrollment to try to get,
for health insurance.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You do it when you can. You can't do it. You can't do it during the day because there's no daycare. We are the daycare. We are the teachers, and we got 3 dogs, so it's like Ringling Brothers all day.
Yeah, we had to schedule a time for my wife and I to do open enrollment. We're like, okay. Oh, yeah. And of course, it was the day before everything was due. Like, it was due that night. So there we were, figuring it out.
Man, we're doing it. Right. But it's just a time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's only this strange because we're in a pandemic, because people can't get away from it.
Yep.
I mean, these things have been happening since 1619,
Sure.
Police brutality. I mean, policing was started for slavery. Right. So it wasn't like it was a noble profession.
Yeah.
You serve the people. Yeah, no, you're trying to keep slaves on the plantation. Right. So it's. I just feel like the fact that we keep looking at these things and we don't have a break from it, going to work and having lunch. That's why I feel like there's such a visceral reaction to all the killing that the world has hit the streets, because it looks so bizarre the way things are going, that people are like, this is morally incorrect, even though it's been happening for centuries.
Right.
But when the world stopped and we're all looking at it the same way, then you're like, oh, this is not right.
Right.
And so I feel like there's a possibility of at least an improved humanity on the planet, I hope.
Yeah.
Over the next 20 or 30 years or whatever,
Right. And I think, I've had these conversations with several people about, what might make the difference, or what might even turn the tide a little bit. And I think, like, the humanity is definitely one thing, but also white people, man, gotta do something. You be part of it, or nothing's going to change, because we don't really.
Well,
we don't really have. We got a good gig going right now, so there's not a lot of incentive to change. So if people get aboard, then go ahead.
I mean, when this was all going down, I was talking to friends of mine, and we're all like crying on the phone,
Sure.
on Zoom, and I said, listen, this is one thing you have to understand, is that I mean, blessed, man. Lucky I've had a very successful career, still have a very successful career, and my parents did right by me. I went to great schools. I had taken lessons from the 4th grade to the 12th grade from a person in Atlanta Symphony, and my entire family, all the Adams. If we have a reunion, it's 140 people.
Yeah.
130
awesome.
people, 130 went to college. 70 have advanced degrees. There are 5 doctors, 6 lawyers. That's regular.
Yeah.
You don't see that on the news, but that's regular black folk. That's just regular. And I would tell my friends in between the tears, I said, listen, here's the difference. It's the only difference really between you and I. When I go to work, I hope I come home.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. It doesn't matter what I'm driving, what I'm wearing, what I say. If I get the wrong guy, I may not come home. I say it's really that simple. And if everybody got their head around that, we could change.
Yeah. And
it's that's all.
Right.
I mean, it's not that simple, but it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing, man. Is sometimes the answer is simple, but getting there is very difficult. Like,
oh yeah,
getting that very simple point across is like people either don't want to hear it, or they don't understand it, or they don't think it's true, or whatever the excuse is. So I don't know. I just appreciate you being honest and forthcoming about it.
Yeah, man.
So,
I mean, I have a very good friend of mine. He's our son's godfather. And he was a concert master for the Pittsburgh Symphony. He and I are very close, man. So I tell him things that would happen. He goes, Timmy, come on, man. I said, watch this. So we're going to Starbucks. And I'm like, I have more money in my person than a person's mortgage, suit. I mean, I wore a suit every day for 28 years. They weren't cheap. And so I'm walking down the street. I'm like, and I said, AC, watch this woman. She's going to move her purse in about 30 feet. He says, no way. And sure enough, she looks up, she moves her purse. I'm like, she doesn't have enough money for me to want to take.
right. Yeah.
And he says, man, I said, dude, at least 3 days a week when I get on the elevator, 2 or 3 white women will get to the back of the elevator because they're afraid of me.
Yeah.
I'm like, look at me. I have a Hickey premium suit on, Rolex on my arm. What? I'm not even saying that to brag. It's just that, how do I look like you have anything that I could possibly need? And at least once a month, someone would ask me to park their car. And they just saw me get out of my BMW. And I know they're coming to hear me play. I know they are.
Yeah.
Because they're dressed and they say, would you take my car? And I'm like, and I asked one of my friends who was a lawyer. I said, now, Parker, he's a brother. I said, Parker, if I took their key and drove their car up to the Hill District and just gave it to somebody and came and asked them to give me a ride home and they can have the 7 Series, would I go to jail? He goes, nope. And that's why I know there's a God, because I was waiting and it never happened. Because now I go, no. He's like, because this fool, I would totally do it. I'd take the key and drive it to the hill. Hey, man, you want a car? You can have it. Just drive me back downtown.
Yeah, just give me a lift.
It never happened. Yeah, just give me a lift. So, I mean, it's ironic. It's like I play in Carnegie Hall, but I may not be able to get a cab.
Right.
I may have gotten a great review in the New York Times, but I may not be able to get a cab. I mean, you don't talk about it, but, you just deal with it. But that's the reality of it. And until people hear that story, they're flabbergasted. So why would I want to tell that story for sympathy? Yeah. It's effed up. So if I'm telling you, it's the truth. You don't hear me talking about it because I just kind of brush it off. But, that's the reality of Black folk. And when everybody understands, we can all actually work together and live together, and it can work. But those are our realities. And, I mean, you said, thanks for being honest. Well, shit, that's all I know.
Yeah.
What else am I going to say? I mean, that's my life.
Right.
It's a great life. I've been very fortunate, the best teachers on the planet, and they loved me, and I loved them. I loved them deeply.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the depth of their humanity is like it's like Cloyd Duff, Richard Wiener, Paul Yancich, Bill Wilder. I mean, these men were like family to me, and so
Do you think that's
Always,
why? Do you think that's why you have such a great relationship with your students now? Because that's definitely something I wanted to talk
yeah,
about.
man.
Is
Yeah, look, Bill Wilder. I started studying with him when I was 9. That was the year schools integrated in Georgia,
okay.
and he just saw me as this kid that wanted to play. And when I call him today, I say, "Hey man, I love you because I know how you. I love you too." I mean, he was 23. I was 9. He just got the job in the symphony, and I I teach my students the way he taught me. I do the same thing now. They'll play and I say, "I'll be back in a minute. You work on that." I like leave the lesson all the time. He did that to me from the time I was 9 to I was 17.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for 35 years. I'll say, "Look, you work on that. I'll be back in a minute." I just leave the room, come back in. How's it going? And then so I teach them how I was taught by Bill, and then by Duff and Rich Weiner and Paul. And, you know, I remember I told Rich Weiner this a week before he passed. I called him. I said, "Rich, I've been saying your name every day since 1987. I'm sick of saying your name." He goes, "Hey, you won't have to say it much longer." I'm like, "Rich, that is so wrong." He started laughing. He's like, joking. I'm like, "Dude, this is not funny."
Yeah.
But it's the truth. You ask anybody that studies me, they'll hear Rich Weiner, Floyd Duff, Paul Yancey, and Bill Wilder at least once. If you study me for 4 years, you hear it every day, every lesson. Those 4 names.
Yeah.
Period. And I tell people, I don't want to be. I would rather be a bad imitation of them than me trying to find my sound. I don't need to find a sound. Theirs is good. I just try to be like them.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've never tried to be an original. What the hell? What is that? Everything's already been done.
Yeah.
So if I can copy them and get close, man, that's
Yeah.
Paul was just here, and Paul said, "Man, I love you." He goes, "Yeah, Tim, I love you too." I said, I had him laughing. I'm like, I can do Paul Yancey's better than Paul Yancey. He was just rolling. And I started talking like him. I said, "Watch this. I can play like him." I said, "Dude, I can play you better than you."
Yeah.
And to me, that is how you become a musician of the highest order.
Sure.
Is that you study the people that you study with, but you know who they are. They're supposed to be good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would never really watch how they played. Of course, they played great. I watch how they warmed up. I watch when they got to work. I would ask specific questions. I want to understand what they thought, less of what they did. They're supposed to be good. They're playing the Cleveland Orchestra. Shit, they can play.
Yeah.
So for me, man, what did you do in high school? Tell me about that. Duff was a rudimental champion. I'm like, oh, so that means I need to play snare drum for the rest of my career. Okay, I got it. So I did. I played snare drum 2 hours a day for 28 years. Why? Floyd Duff did. That's why he sounded like that. He's a rudimental snare drummer. Had nothing to do with the timpani. And he played drum set. So I'm like, I did the same thing. Rich Weiner was basically like Buddy Rich. And Paul had the same kind of really vast background. So Floyd Duff, he was principal percussion of Robert Hood Dell Orchestra. And then he played timpanist. So I became principal percussionist of the EMF. I tried to do everything that he did. If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. Yeah. I was not trying to be my own man and have my own sound. No. I was trying to be a bad imitation of everybody.
Well, it's funny. I was talking to his name's Andrew Baldwin. He plays in the Chicago area, like freelance, and we were talking on the podcast episode or 2 ago about the same type of thing, like creativity and almost imitation. And you're totally right. There's nothing that's really new. It's kind of sort of imitating or emulating who you admire. In your case, the sound that you want, you're not trying to create a new sound, or you're not trying to be totally different. You're just taking what you really admire and what you want to do, and sort of, obviously you make it your own in some sense, like you set yourself apart, obviously, but I have these conversations with my wife a lot too, because she's an artist or graphic designer, and she's really creative, but she's like the same thing. It's you sort of find things you like, and you take little bits and pieces from that, and you sort of build your own thing, and that's kind of what makes it original, I guess, in a sense. But
well, sure, man.
yeah.
I mean, one of my first lessons with Mr. Duffy said to me, he says, take what I give you and make it better.
Yeah, cool.
And then he says, don't believe anything I say. Try it yourself. That was like the second lesson. That's what he said to me.
Yeah.
So I'd go, okay. So he tell me to do something. He say, lift. So I'd get him out in practice. Go whack, whack, boom. Yeah, he's right. Yeah, it does sound better.
Yeah.
I mean, so I was a good student. I did what he said. My class would say, well, Mr. Duff, I feel like you don't have a job. Why are you even talking? Don't question those people.
Yeah.
They forgot more music than you will ever play.
Right.
So whatever they say, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions? No. I have no questions. It's very clear. I need to go. I need to practice.
Yeah. Cool.
So you just kind of, I don't know, man. I mean, I was just having a conversation with a buddy of mine right before I talked to you. We were talking about Miles because we're doing this duo project, and I just sent him some tracks, and I was telling him a couple of Miles stories that I just heard. Then he was telling me a Miles story, then a Monk story that was just like, it changed my life. Like now I'm inspired for like 20 years. He said one of Monk's, I wrote it down, said one of Monk's colleagues said, man, what are you thinking when you're playing? And Monk said, I'm just moving the silence. Well, then you understand that's why he's lonely as Monk. If that's what he's thinking, that's exactly the same with Miles. I was watching this M2 interview, and he was saying that he and Miles were close. So Miles said, let's go to the Knicks game. So we went to the Knicks game. And then they're like the third quarter, and he realized that Miles had never looked up in the entire game. And he says, Miles, now, are you watching the game? He says, I'm listening to the feet.
Mm.
And then after the game, we went to an Indian restaurant. Great Indian food, and Miles said, how do you like it? And M2 said, oh man, the food is terrific. Miles said, the music. Then the guy was like, and Miles said, that's the direction we're going.
Yeah.
So I thought, if I can get to that headspace, just live there for the rest of my life, then I can be creative. I can be more creative.
Sure.
And that's a conversation that Dwayne and I are having, and you want to put people around you that are thinking like that. So you have a shot of being better than you ever thought you could be in terms of being expressive.
Yeah.
And so ultimately that's what you want to do.
That's a duo you're working with somebody?
Yeah. It's called Juju. It's bass and percussion. And, he plays keyboards. I play keyboards. So it's kind of all over the place. And I just sent him a bunch of tracks, just me playing a variety of percussion things. He just plays bass on top of it. It's just unbelievable. Right. We had a gig here in Georgia in January, and he played keys, and I played keys. And, he's a jazz musician. He was in Wynton's first quintet. He won a Grammy with Nancy Wilson, played with Arthur Blythe and Stanley Turrentine and Maceo Parker and Fred Wesley. He's great. He and I are very close. We've been playing together for years.
Yeah.
And so, we're going to do this thing until we can do this till we're old. I'm already old, but older.
Right.
So, it's rewarding, man.
So let's talk about Music 846. I know that's a big, obviously a huge project, Music 846 project, like in response to George Floyd's murder. I mean, from our prior conversation, I know that's kind of was the inspiration. Can you just talk a little bit about that project specifically? Sure.
I mean, when he was killed, I watched it, and what was really moving about it was not that he was killed, because you see black people get killed all the time. But this guy had his knee on his neck, right, his shades on his head, with his hand in his pocket, just gazing, looking around, like it was fun. And initially I was numb, and then for about a month and a half, I cried every day. I would come in another room and just cry, bawl, and I would cry because what's my son? What's going to happen to my son? I mean, he's going to be driving in 11 years. And I thought, what can I do to try to help mitigate that somehow? I thought, well, I will think naive and think that I'm going to write music that's going to help change the world for him. And so that was it.
Yeah.
And so I thought I will. I said the first thing I thought was I want all the companies to get together and donate small things to me for me to play this music on. And I'm not anybody's artist. I'm just me trying to help change the world. And this kind of helps bring all the percussion companies together and then try to put on everybody's site. And so we as a percussion community can be a part of some kind of change. And then I was talking to my friend Dan Meyer. He's the music director of the Erie Philharmonic. He was a resident conductor in Pittsburgh. We were very close. I played a concerto with his orchestra in Nashville. I said, Dan, man, I mean, for 28 years, I played like 3 Black composers. You know, and they were on Martin Luther King Day, you know, and all the things that I recommend orchestras to do to diversify their audience. They never did, and it was very easy to do. Like, okay, so, but I have to get this narrative of my people on that stage. And I said, man, I got to do it. He says, I'll commission you. I went, okay. So, you know, I said, man, I want to write about Harriet Tubman. He goes, okay, done. So I'm writing a piece about Harriet Tubman for the Erie Philharmonic and the Blue Water Chamber Orchestra. Yeah. Spring 22. And then I thought, well, man, I'm in Athens, Atlanta Symphony. MLK was there. So I sent an email to Robert Spano, and he never responds to anybody. And his assistant responded to me the next day. And then I told him what I wanted to do. A little bit of silence. And then I did this interview in Aspen with Alan Fletcher. He's the president. And he told me on the thing that Aspen Music Festival and Atlanta Symphony is going to commission me to write a piece on MLK. So I'm not sure when that'll happen, sometime 22, I guess. And then Jonathan Haas, I was telling Jonathan about it. So he commissioned me to write a piece for NYU Percussion Ensemble piece for 16 players. And then Aspen Music Festival commissioned me as well. So it'll be the Aspen Music Festival Percussion Ensemble, NYU's. And that one is 8:46. And it's essentially 8 minutes and 46 seconds of George Floyd dying. Yeah. And I found 41 quotes from all the articles and research I did, and everybody says 41 quotes that the cops said and George Floyd said and people stand bystanders, and they said throughout the entire piece. And I'm almost done. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. I mean, 16 players, that's a lot of percussionists, man. You know? I mean, right. You know, it's so easy to write too much. You know, so I just kept thinking about ionization. I mean, Perez, that piece is brilliant, and there has not been a piece with that many people written that well since 1930 something, whatever that was written. Yeah. I mean, there's not a piece that big now. That's just not idiomatic and just a bunch of patterns. I mean, that piece is brilliant, and it's only like 3.5 minutes. So I use that as a concept, and you know, I'm almost done. I have, I don't know. I mean, it's so funny how I wrote it. I write the beginning, then I write the end, then I write 3 parts, and it's just crazy. So what I ended up doing with the mallet parts is 3 vibraphones. Because I was downstairs working on this Elaine Jones documentary. I was playing My Country Tears of the Timpani. And Kim said, "You can put that in the percussion ensemble piece." I went, "I am now." She said, I thought you were." I went, "No, it's brilliant. Thank you." Yeah. So in the piece, I have My Country Tears of Thee. I have We Shall Overcome. I have Let Us Break Bread Together, communion tune that I use. My Country. Did I say My Country Tears of Thee? Yeah. And then the opening chords of the second movement of Dvorak's New World. Yeah. And you can't recognize any of it.
Yeah.
You could you don't you'd have to listen real close to recognize any of the tunes.
Yeah.
But I feel like those tunes are so strong to the African American diaspora.
Sure.
I mean, that's a part of it, especially the Black South. And I felt it's appropriate because I was just going to write some mallet parts. I thought, no, I should do this. And once Kim said that, within 10 minutes, I came with these other tunes, and so, it sounds really. It sounds real new music-y and pitch bends and all, but it's those tunes.
Yeah, cool.
And they're masked, but I felt like they're important to be heard, and so that commission they're supposed to be playing spring 21.
Okay.
But I don't think it's going to happen. They're going to go back to NYU. I've been doing lectures there. I did 5 of them this semester, and I, so I have some time, but I'm going to finish it. I'm going to go ahead and finish it because I just want to get it done, and then start working on the Harriet piece, and I might write a piece for Josh Jones and the Kansas City Symphony too.
Yeah, cool.
And that will happen. When I just write it, I just give it to Michael. So I'm going to try to finish his percussion ensemble piece in the next month and a half. Lineage just did a great arrangement of it. I was very thankful for that. It's very nice. And
so if I'm understanding, correctly, then the 846 project is a series of commissions. Then it's not necessarily a single piece.
No.
I'm not understanding correctly. Then I'm not understanding.
No. The 846 project is the concept I'm writing under for the next 11 years.
Oh, okay.
846 is an amount of time that Cobb had his knee on George Floyd's neck.
Right. Yeah.
So if I ever do pre-concert talks, I will be talking about this for the next maybe 15 years.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's an umbrella for essentially all the work you're going to be doing for the next 11 plus years. That's awesome.
Well, basically until I close my eyes. That I'm going to write every music, every percussion piece, everything will be something about what's happening in society, whether it's healing, whether it's for healing, or I'm just going to look. Shostakovich was not writing happy music.
Right.
He was right. He was like, set us free with Stalin. I mean, come on. Beethoven was writing protest music. Bach was not trying to be prolific. He was trying to pay the bills. He had a lot of kids. Right. So, people forget, Dvorak New World was inspired by, what's his name? He's from Erie. He's a composer who inspired Dvorak to write, put Negro spirituals in his music. So it's there's plenty to write about.
Yeah.
And I wrote the first big piece. I wrote a piece in 2014 about Trayvon Martin. My friend Greg Hankins, he's a piano player. We did a 30-minute piece on Trayvon Martin. And, so I've been doing it since 2014.
And I mean, you're totally right. There's so much material that you could draw off of. And the first thing you say when you say you want to write a piece about Harriet Tubman is like, okay, well, how's that work? Like, what do you like, what sort of draws you, or what themes, or what type of elements, musical elements, or how do you kind of portray something like that? Like what?
Well, I mean, I played in a rock band for 3 years, and
we're going to get to that too.
Well, I mean, but that's where I draw it from, because our manager said, whenever you write a tune, think video.
Right.
So if you think video, all music is programmatic music. And I've done a couple of film scores, and I was on the process of writing for film. I played on the Samuel Jackson film called Caveman's Valentine with Terrence Blanchard. So I met Terrence, Lewis Nash, a great drummer. I met Lewis in '94. So he came to Pittsburgh with the this is all going somewhere with
I believe you.
the Art Blakey tribute band, and
Okay.
Terrence was playing in the band. And I didn't know who Terrence was. I didn't know Terrence, but I knew who he was. So Lewis and I had mail, and Terrence was like, man, can I come? I'm like, yeah, man, come on. So Lewis and I we're just having, I said, hey, Lewis, man, would you come and talk to my students tomorrow? He goes, yeah, sure, man, no problem. And Terrence said, can I come? I'm like, yeah, you can come. That's cool. So we spent all this time together. Then Terrence came back with this band. And then, we spent like four nights together just hanging. And, we're all about the same age. So we had a lot in common. Terrence was doing a lot of film writing. He said, man, I'd like you to play on my next film. And I went, oh, yeah, thank you. People say that stuff all the time. So
Sure.
that's what I say. It's very nice.
Yeah.
So Dwayne, the guy I was just talking to an hour ago, I was at his house. It was my birthday. He said, Steve, what do you want for your birthday? I said, I need you to barbecue me some ribs, because he's a really great cook. And so I'm at his house on my birthday, grilling. Well, he's grilling. And my phone rings. I said, hello. He said, this is Terrence. Hey, Terrence, what's up, dude? He said, man, I want you to play on my next film. What, great. When? Wednesday. I went, okay, cool. Where? Seattle. It was Sunday. I'm like, all right, man. So I said, what am I playing? I just want you to play tempo. So I grabbed my sticks, got on the plane, flew to Seattle, and did the soundtrack. And I was just there around it the whole time. And then 4 or 5 years later, he says, I want you to play on this new Spike film called Miracle at St. Anna. And I said, what do you want me to play? He goes, man, I don't know. I said, I tell you what, why don't I just bring my stuff? He says, okay. So I got a cargo van. I brought marimba, vibes, 2 large flight cases for hardware full of toys, woods, metals. I basically cleaned out my studio, congas, djembe, udu drums, and just drove to New Orleans. So I got there. He said, man, okay, look, let me just show you the film. So he showed me the film. I said, okay. I said, what do you want me to play? He says, I want you to play whatever you hear. I'm like, okay, let's start here. And he pushed play, and it was like a 45-second cue. I looked at it. I'm like, all right, man, give me 45 minutes. So I went out to the truck and started pulling stuff in. And then I went and I looked at it again. I said, okay, run it. And he pushed play and record. And I did it. And he's like, perfect. So that was one take that was done. So if you watch Miracle at St. Anna, the very first music you hear in the film is me. And then there are other cues in there. And, he would say, there's a sultry scene where this woman is trying to seduce this guy. And he's reading a magazine and didn't want to pay attention. And he just played it for me. I'm like, man, give me 10 minutes. So I went out to the truck, got a oud drum, and started playing. He goes, man, okay, perfect. And then he says, now this next scene, the Germans are coming down this mountain. Then they're going to do this. I'm going to play it. Okay, I'll be back. So I went to the truck, got a rope drum, a pipe drum, an 8-inch Philharmonic, and a 5-inch Philharmonic. And he put me in the stairwell. And I said, how many bars? He says, you got 24 bars. He said, want me to write you something? I said, no, man, just put the track on. And I just improvised this rudimental thing that played over the bar line. And I kept saying to myself, remember, remember. And then I just played it 4 times. And you hear it sounds enormous because it's rope drum, pipe drum. And so I was checking him out. And I would ask him questions. And I was talking to Terrence maybe once a week for like 4 or 5 years. And then, I'd be talking to Winton. I've been talking to Winton fairly regularly since 92. And these people are composed, they write. And so I just ask questions all the time. Or they just tell me, I'm like, when you write, how do you, what's your process? And this is what I do. And I put this in, and I just listen. And so for Harry Tubman, I had written that piece in 2014 with Greg Hankins. And, I'm a film nut. So I've watched so many films, and I'm listening and paying attention. I've been playing I played youth orchestra from the 8th grade so that was 13 till I was 48. I was playing Indianapolis Symphony when I was 17.
Yeah.
So that's been my life, playing that music. So I hear it. I just hear it. Yeah. I'm not a genius. It's just there. And I wrote a concerto for percussion and violin in 2007, the concertmaster, and I played the PSO. So I'd done it before. And so for Harriet, it's pretty simple. I got like 10 minutes. And so, I watched a bunch of films and read a bunch of stuff and read a bunch of books. So the beginning is, I think about what it must have felt like for her to finally get the idea that I have to get out of here.
Yeah.
I have to go. And that has a sound to it. And if you think thematically, if you have a thought of, I need to leave, is contemplative. It's far away. It's not like a Bruckner brass section chord.
Right.
It's just not. It's more. It's not even Debussy because shit is not beautiful. You're a slave. So it's kind of pointillistic pits. So it's you go to my piano and all this stuff started. It's put it in minor key, put it in D minor. And then the intro came in about, 15 minutes. It was done. And then I think now, if I'm writing for strings and percussion, I gave every percussion player a role. Like percussion 1's Harriet, percussionist 2 the slave owner, percussion 3 is a person that's organizing all the horsemen, that's in the clan trying to catch her, and then percussion 4 is just the vibe, the feeling. And so I gave all those feelings and all those characters a set of instruments, and then the strings are the backdrop for the percussion. I do like the opposite, even though the strings are melodic, so is percussion.
Yeah, sure.
And so I wrote. I visualized what it would sound like to have her running and being chased. So it's in 4/4, but it's 7/8. And after 7 bars, it lines back up again.
Right.
And then every 7 bar accent, every 3 rotations, I bring another instrument in. So it sounds very, very complicated, but it's 4/4.
Right.
And you go to the theater, to the movie theater. If you have no music, you have no film, unless it's a silent film. And even then, there's music.
Yeah,
So that's my process.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, it's cool to know. And I mean, I was listening to a podcast today on the way home from work, and John Meacham is an author, but also does like documentaries, and he's a historian, an author. And he was talking about just writing being cinematic. I mean, he's thinking about how it looks, how it might look, even though he's writing about history. He might be writing about Harriet Tubman, but just how that looks. He's trying to put something, kind of either evoke emotion or a sense or a feeling. I mean, he's talking about writing about FDR and just like smoking a cigarette. Like he's trying to kind of draw that out of somebody, that sort of feeling or emotion.
Well, the one other thing I want to say, Jonathan Haas asked me in this interview with Aspen, he says, so Tim, tell me about your compositional training. I said, yeah, I mean, I've been studying composition since I was 13. Really? Oh, no, yeah. Debussy, Brahms, Bartok, P-Funk, Michael Jackson, Wind and Fire, James Brown, Journey, Schoenberg, Dittu. Yeah, man, there it is. I mean, and I'm dumb enough to do it. I'm not afraid to fail. Yeah. I used to have these conversations with Winston. He said to me, "Man, look, you have to be. Why did he say it? You have to have the courage to sound sad in public in order to be good." And I never forgot that. Yeah. It's like, and I'm not afraid to do it. Anybody who studied with me in Pittsburgh will say that. Every 2 years I changed my technique. I would change something drastically. And they go, "Why would you do that?" And why not? Yeah. So I kind of, and then Paul was an inspiration to me too. Yacic, I mean, when he got the Cleveland Orchestra job, he's playing in the orchestra in Atlanta. He had a toddler, and he had a cabinet business.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and then he's playing the Cleveland Orchestra. He he had a stick company. He was making timpani and malice. And then Rich Reno went to law school. I said, "Why'd you go to law school?" I was bored. He graduated fourth in his class in CSU.
Yeah,
So
because
he what's that?
I didn't know that. That's
Oh
interesting.
yeah. Oh yeah, man. And because I asked, I said, "Wait a minute," I said, "Mr. Reno." Yeah, I said, "Why'd you become a lawyer?" He goes, I was bored. I said, "Okay, so let's go back to Peters. I don't even know what that's. I want to know who I'm studying with." And then he started to say, this thinking came because I was doing a lot of studying in law school. So I came up with this thinking for American in Paris because I didn't have time to practice. And then, so all the stories that my teachers would tell me, they gave me the courage to do anything.
Sure. So, what's really interesting about that is like, where did he find the time to fit all this in? And then
he had 2 girls.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel him there, man. So where do you find the time? I mean, because obviously you got to research, you're writing, you're playing, you're teaching, you got multiple ensembles, duos, you're collaborating, but then you're reading books, you're watching movies, you're researching stuff. Like how do you organize all this activity into your day?
What's
What
your
do you
name?
do? My name?
What?
Right. Exactly.
Man, so this book that I just read, Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. It's like 575 pages.
Yeah. So how do you find time to read a 575-page book?
Check this out. I read it when I fed the dogs.
Yeah.
That's the only time.
So after like 5 years then?
No, I read it in like a month.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I read, so I have, it takes about 8 minutes to feed them before they go out. They have to go outside and poop and pee. So that's 16 minutes a day times 7.
Yeah.
And I didn't miss a day. And so I finished it. So that's how I read. If I read parenting books, I put it there. And so it looks like I'm not organized, really kind of haphazard and kind of crazy, but I'm pretty regimented. It looks loose. Yeah. But like I read that book and I told I'm done. She goes, but I read it only, I didn't read it at night, maybe a couple of times, but not very much. It was only with the dogs. Yeah. So if I'm reading, I read, I underline, I always read with a pencil, I write in the margins, and that's how I do my reading. And then I don't know how I do it. I mean, all this, the tracks that I sent to Dwayne, and I would say, man, Kim, how long do I have with Luca? She says 25 minutes. All right, I go in the basement. And then like one day I just set up like a whole bunch of multiple setups. And then, some days, okay, she go, you have a half hour, okay. And so I hit play and just start playing. And that's how I do it. Mm-hmm. And like I wrote this trio for Lineage, and I listened to it. I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. How did I do that? And I would just sit down and just start writing. And it would just come out because I'm paying attention all the time. Yeah. And it's in there. And so it comes out when it comes out. And then when it doesn't, I just don't worry about it. But if I have to do it, it just, I just do it in the cracks. Yeah. I got to give a lecture this Saturday on auditioning for orchestras and how to get a college teaching job and high school kids, so I'm about 6 pages into the audition. I'll finish it tonight or tomorrow, then I go on to the next one. And then, Saturday I do this 3-hour lecture. Yeah. And then I did another timpani class with 12 pieces. I go downstairs but I'll warm up with Luca. I'll warm up with him for like a week and a half, just on the pan. And then I go downstairs and read. And then just kind of knock it out. But I've been doing this all my life. Yeah. Right? So it's not like you know what I mean.
It's part of who you are.
Yeah, man. So I've been playing all the instruments all my life. So my students play better than me. There's no question about it. But I don't have the same fear they have. Just to go up and do something. And so I don't have a lot of time. And so learn how to concentrate when I have time to concentrate, and then I go on.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, so that's essentially how I do it. I mean, I got debt. I don't even understand sometimes, but I just do it. I mean, I've promised you videos for like a year and a half, and I just did one.
yeah,
But I know though once I do them, then I'll do a bunch of them.
sure.
And so I've never forgotten things, and I kind of in life I've learned that when it's time for something to happen, it will happen, but you must be ready. My dad used to always say to me, he would say, son, you never know when opportunity will come. Just make sure you're ready.
Yeah.
And so, I want to do, I got 4 12-inch tambourines that you guys gave me that I just did a piece with, and I'm getting to do like 6 or 7 pieces with them, and then I'll send them to you, and because I have great appreciation for the company and your generosity, but I push the product, and all of this is a part of helps with composition. I mean, so there's sort of like no disconnect. Even now, if I bring the tambourines in, this has everything to do with how I organize my time to do all these things.
Yeah. Right.
It's always in my brain. And once I get the idea of what I want to do, then all I need to do is find that 10 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. I mean, sometimes you almost work it all out before you execute it. Yeah,
That's
for
right,
sure.
right. I don't have the luxury to just like when I was younger, just go to the studio and just be there for 4 or 5 hours and like
Yeah.
no responsibilities, no nothing. The concert ends, I go get something, then I go to my studio like 3 in the morning. I don't have that luxury,
Right.
but I remember the things I discovered then.
Right. So I more of a personal question, like personal for me. If people that are listening, they can tune out right now for the next minute or so. But like, so when you read a 575-page book, how do you prioritize like what book you might want to read or what movie you want to watch or what kind of is most important? Because I mean, for me, like, especially the last several months, like my Kindle queue is full of different books, and my wife and we listen to a bunch of different podcasts, and I sort of get fear of missing out. Like I don't want to not listen to something because like I'm gonna miss some information or detail or whatever. Like how do you kind of prioritize what you're gonna watch or read or listen to?
It's basically whatever issues I have.
Yeah.
That's what I read.
Yeah.
So recently I've been, I'm from the South, and I vowed I would never come back. And I'm back. And this is my 11th year. And only now am I kind of getting used to, being back. And I'm like, man, I have to figure this out. And I was listening to this interview with Marianne, Isabel Wilkerson. She wrote this book called Caste. And it talks about the caste system of India. Sure. The United States really, really solidifies. Racism is really about a caste system. It has nothing to do with race. So it was a very poignant interview. And she was interviewed by this brother. I could see him. He's a lawyer, and they did a movie about him. And he just did this big museum on slavery in Alabama. I can see him. I can't remember his name. But in the interview, she says, "Yeah, I wrote my first book, the one, the Pulitzer Prize, was Warmth of Other Suns." And I went, wait a minute. I looked, and it's right there. Mm-hmm. It's right there. Yeah. And so I picked it up, and it talked about the Great Migration. And I read about 5 pages. I'm like, this is talking about me. And perfect. It was exactly what I needed. And then it gave me clarity of what to write about and how to write. And so it was easy to read. Yeah. And then the next, I went through a phase, I wanted to cleanse. So I read about minimalism for like 3 or 4 months. Lots of videos, lots of books to try to clear out the clutter. And then I started reading a lot of Thich Nhat Hanh, because I needed to navigate all this emotion of all this killing of black folk. You know,
Right.
so I needed more than the Bible. I need Buddhism. I need a whole lot of stuff because it's very complicated. I mean, that the journey is very complicated. It's just as complicated for white folk. Don't get it twisted. I mean, you know, it's messed up for all of us
Yeah.
because it's messed up. You know, so so that's where I'm at. I'm gonna read Cast by Isabel Wilkerson, and then
Hmm.
I'm back to some other books on meditation and Buddhism, and then you know now that Dwayne and I are really in the mix of writing, you know, there's some artists that I'll start to. There's a great artist named Thornton Dial, and he didn't really get famous until he was in his 70s. He did this thing called yard art that's really popular down south, like in Alabama.
Hmm.
In his 80s, he had stuff in the Guggenheim. But he's been making art all his life, and he has some very, very unbelievably powerful paintings, kind of collages where he put like dolls on these ropes and all this stuff. You know, there's a couple of them that I have in my mind that are so appropriate for now. And all I'm going to do is take a screenshot. I'm going to say, Baron, let's do a record about this. And then he'll go, all right, just send it.
Yeah.
And then we'll just start doing it. And that is sort of, I'm not sure if I really answered, but that's sort of how I read. You know,
Right.
now I'm writing. So who's the person that I'm most inspired by? Miles.
Hmm.
So, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm on this thing called Lenny's Law. You know Lenny White, right?
Yeah.
The drummer
Yeah.
for Return. Okay,
Sure.
so when I went to, I'm doing this thing at NYU, and Jonathan Haas said, I was telling Lenny White is right. And I said, whoa, you mean Lenny White, like
Yeah.
Returning Forever Lenny White? He goes, yeah. I said, man, can you give me his email? I want to meet him. And so I got this email. I said, hey, Tim, I'd love to meet you. I'm like, wait a minute. And so he says, call me. I call him. I said, Lenny. He goes, hey. I said, okay. So, man, I just went on about how inspiring he was to me. And why am I telling you this?
I don't know, because it's interesting.
No, yeah, it was going somewhere.
People that have influenced you.
Yeah. And so here's an opportunity to meet the person that I said, you don't understand. I was talking to my friend Andy Kubashevsky. He and I played in the band together. He's writing for film now, and we talk probably once a week. And he and I listen to Return to Forever all the time. I mean, so even though we're in school at CIM, we never listen to classical music when we're out the building. Like, you know, the orchestra music was work.
Right.
We go listen to punk music, you know, fusion, hip hop, whatever. The hip hop was just starting. So Return to Forever we listened to all the time. Zappa, anything that had great drumming, we're just all over it. And I'm like, I'm talking to Lenny White. I said, Lenny, man, do you realize I can play Lenny White better than Lenny White? He goes, no. I said, the sorcerer, I can see you every lick. And so I'm thinking, so now I'm inspired. I can call him. He's going to help me really get around logic. He played on Bitches Brew. So I started asking questions about Miles. And then Lenny's Loft has all these people like Buster Williams on it, Vincent Wilbur, and all these people on Zoom. And I'm like, and then I said, Vincent, I love to talk to you sometimes. He said, man, call me. That's Miles Davis' nephew.
Hmm.
So he said, man, what's going on, Tim? I said, man, just tell me about Miles. An hour later, I'm like, it's like a blessing.
Yeah.
You know, so now I have this, but I have people that knew him. You know, and so I started asking Renton about Miles. He started to talk to me about Miles, you know, so I have inspiration. Miles is a great inspiration for me to write because he had no boundaries. He didn't follow any rules. And so
Sure.
they give you the freedom to just be. and so, you know, that kind of fuels the direction I go for reading,
Yeah.
or for trying to find inspiring interviews or video. There you go. I was getting.
Yeah.
I know I had to do something.
No, it's awesome. No, I appreciate it, because I mean, I think it's like, personally, that's one thing. I almost don't know what to do, so I don't do anything. You know, I
No,
get
get it.
kind of stuck. Like, I really want to, you know, like I said, I got this Kindle queue of all these books that I want to read, and then I just fall back to, you know, I'm reading Game of Thrones. Okay, well, that's, you know, what's that gonna do? But
Have you read White Fragility?
yeah, I did over the summer. Yep, that's
Yeah,
kind of where it started.
yeah, man. You know, I wrote a piece about Charlottesville a couple
Okay.
years ago, 2 years ago, for soprano sax, percussion, and spoken word.
Yeah,
And I got a lot of statistics that I researched about 3 months of what the verbiage would be, and I thought, I'm going to write. I'm like, no, I'm going to take quotes from it. So I got quotes from everybody for 3 months. I did that.
yeah,
I got my quotes from 9 at night till 11 in the bed. So that's what I. So at night is when I collect quotes, and then we're going on vacation. So I'm like, man, I gotta write. So I bought this MX49 Yamaha keyboard. It's got 49 keys.
Yeah.
So I finished writing the piece on the beach. I get up early, like at 4:30. You write for like 3 hours before anybody got up. Then I'm done.
yeah,
So that's how I squeeze time and,
yeah,
you know, and learn new instruments. Like I need to deal with Pandero. So instead of playing drum pad with Luca, he's playing drums. I play Pandero. So I play Pandero every day for an hour. I do that for like a month. I get it together.
yeah.
So
Sure.
that's how I navigate. What I read, what I play is based on what I need,
Yeah,
and then I insert it where I can.
yeah. Great. Cool. Well, man, I don't know. I just appreciate the support you've given us over the last
Oh man, come on, man.
several years. Like, and I appreciate you taking the time. I know your schedule is crazy. It took us a while to kind of nail down even an hour of time, and you got more stuff to do here after we hang up. So,
Oh man, it's a pleasure that you asked me to talk to you. And look, I've known Eric since he started the company. Is it 81? 1981?
No, we're celebrating 25 years this year. So like 95,
so
95.
Okay, so 81 is I think 81 was Grover. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because I remember there was because I have the 4th tambourine that Neil Grover made. I still have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. It's number 4.
Cool.
And then Eric was 95, you said?
Yep.
Yes, it was my first year in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, cool.
Because I remember coming to Pacey, I'm like, Eric. He goes, Tim. I'm like, oh man, this is great. I went, dude, these are terrific. And I tell everybody, man, just not because I'm on this podcast, but and I've said this, you can ask my students, Black Swamp is one of the few companies that actually improves every year.
Well,
it's sort of just that simple, because that's very difficult to do. It's not about not resting on your laurels and trying to be inventive, but it actually improves. I mean, you guys find ways to improve what you do, whether it's you make the shell a little bit lighter, you lightly crimp something, or you come up with it. I remember Rich Wiener called me. He goes, Black Swamp got this tambourine, and I forgot what it was. He said, you can't really play it loud, but it's perfect. It's just perfect. And he called me to tell me about it. Like, he said, yeah, this is awesome. And that's the thing that you guys are not. Here it is. You don't make gimmick instruments. That's it. You don't make an instrument that's cool for a certain period of time. Yeah. If you bring a new product in, you could use it 20 years from now. It is still legitimate in terms of the thought that's going into production. Well, Tim, man, it's a pleasure. It's an honor, man. Thank you.
Yep. And we'll talk soon.
Yeah, man. On Zoom.
On Zoom, right? Soon on Zoom. Yeah, right.
Yeah, man. Take care, brother.
Yeah, see ya.
Ciao, man.
This has been a BSP production, recorded and produced out of the Black Swamp facilities in Zeeland, Michigan. Audio and production assistance by Nathan Coles. Intro and outro music by Adam Hopper. Music sprinkled throughout the episode was the cadenza from Concerto for Drum Set and Wind Ensemble by Jeff Tizik, performed in 2018 by Tim Adams, as well as Tim's percussion trio composition Ode to Brianna, performed by Lineage Percussion.